Hey guys, it's Brian from the Live Food Jive, manifesting the real you. Today I got a special project, and it's one that confused me in the beginning, so I thought maybe it would be appropriate to come on video and actually go through the steps of making kombucha tea. It's not as scary as it sounds. A lot of times I would wonder about fermenting tea and how to infuse flavor into it, and the SCOBY. What is a SCOBY anyway? Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. You get doing kombucha and there's all these things and you wonder, is it going to kill me? I mean, you're growing things, so to eliminate all the fear, the potential fear of kombucha, I want to help you to add it into your life. A lot of people buy kombucha and they're spending $3, $4 and up per bottle of kombucha. So you can actually make it for more like pennies a glass as opposed to dollars. So and you know where it's coming from. Again, you're making it in your home with your family. Some of you have asked what's behind me, and these are my little SCOBY hotels. So these are all SCOBYs that are just resting until I decide to make some more tea. So you'll find that when you make kombucha tea, you will have more than enough SCOBYs. Generally, you want to start with a SCOBY. It's your bacteria. This is what you're starting with. You want to start with that SCOBY, and you can get them a lot of times locally. Someone will be making tea, and you can find them maybe on Facebook or things like that. Or you can go on to Amazon. You can buy SCOBYs. They'll ship them to you. Be careful not to have them shipped in cold weather because they do freeze, and a lot of times it'll kill them, and then you won't get a good batch. You don't want this to mold. So you should never see mold. You should only see the SCOBY. So a SCOBY is like this. Here's my young one. The young ones grow on top, and they grow to the size of your container. So this is the young one that peeled away eventually. Eventually they will all peel away. And this is that SCOBY's mother. And so I'm going to put both of them in here because this is a new guy. And so the older SCOBYs can actually help the tea ferment along a little bit faster and a little bit better. So I keep the young ones with their mother for a little while, and then I'll separate them out. And the mother can, a lot of times, I'll loan loan the mother out so someone can grow a new one, or give it away, and that way they can make their tea and start. Or eventually they they become withered up, they die, or they start to die, and then you just get rid of them. So, so we're going to have the mother and the baby SCOBY together in this batch. It's really simple to make once you get your SCOBY. So there's a few ingredients that you're going to need. You're going to need an organic black tea or green tea. Do not buy any tea that has any oils in it. So you don't want Earl Grey or something like that. You don't want any tea like that. You want a black tea or green tea. You can even do a mixture of black and green tea, but you want plain old tea. So today we're using English Breakfast, organic English Breakfast by Full Circle. You're going to want your SCOBY. You're going to want fresh water. So we use, of course, our reverse osmosis water. And we're going to make a gallon of kombucha. This is what this recipe is for. When you get done, you're going to have a nice little glass of kombucha like this. I'm going to show you some finished products. And I'm going to tell you how to make this particular one. This is raspberries and roses, actually. So delicious. One of a kind. We make it here right at the house. And even people who don't like kombucha end up liking that. So we use, you have to have a sweetener. So the SCOBY eats sugar. And so you can use an organic sugar, regular old cane sugar, or what we tend to use now is either honey, or in our case, at our home, we use maple syrup. So maple syrup is the sweetener of choice for us. You can use honey, and of course you can use sugar. Those change your fermenting times a little bit. I find with the maple syrup, it's quick. We get a quick fermentation. So you're not going to, the only thing that's going to happen with this is it's going to turn vinegary. So you'll know if you went too long. And so if you follow this recipe, though, you should be good. regular room temperature is where you want to keep this. So we're going to make 1 gallon. So the first thing we did is, before I shot this, I went upstairs to the kitchen up there, and I made tea. I made 8 cups of water, and this 8 cups of water ended up, this had 6 tea bags in it. I let them soak until it cools, and then we're going to pour this into what I already have is our distilled water, which is 6, or not distilled, our reverse osmosis. You could use distilled. Our 6 cups of reverse osmosis. So you got 8 cups for the tea, you got 6 cups of plain water, and you have 2 cups left over to make a gallon, and that's where you're bringing in your starter tea. So we're going to pour this in, just like that, okay? Now we've got our starter tea. This was left over from the batch I already made. When you get a SCOBY, generally, if you get it locally, the people will give you the starter tea. So 2 cups here. And we just do this. It just helps to get it going, get your brew going faster. So now we've got that in there like this. Now we've got to add sweeteners. So I am going to do 3/4 of a cup to 1 cup of maple syrup. Okay? So we're going to put about 3/4 of a cup in there, just like that. Okay? Just like that. Now if you do use honey, if you're someone that uses honey, that's called jun. So it's still kombucha, but it's actually called jun. You want to make sure this is mixed up well. So again, if you're using cane sugar, make sure that you put it in while the tea's warm still. It'll help to dissolve the crystals. Kombucha tea making is some 5,000 years old, actually, and it's pretty exciting. It comes from the Chinese, and it's basically just like you know, making apple cider vinegar. It's a fermentation process. So just like you would do sauerkraut, this is full of nutrients and absolutely chock full of probiotics. So you don't need a lot to enjoy the benefits. You know, even just a small glass like this once a day, perfect for you. You can do larger quantities if you want. Just depends on how it makes you feel. So basically, here we go. We've got this, and then we're going to put our SCOBYs in. They just get right in there, and we're going to put them right in like that, and they'll float. Now put this baby on top, and they start right away. They start consuming the sugars right away. And so when you have vinegar and they say the mother, this is the mother. Well, in this case, the mother and the baby, but that's the mother inside. So you will have particles and pieces. If you looked closely at this, you'd see little particles and pieces. You can strain those out if you want to. Get yourself a strainer and just hold it up over your cup like this when you pour it. You can do that. So basically now what we're going to do is I take my kombucha batch and it goes in a nice safe place. I cover it with a cloth, as you can see here. It's nothing fancy. So you cover it with a cloth and you set it to the side and just forget about it for 3 days, okay? You can taste it after 3 days. I find that for me, we like it a little bit sweeter. I don't like it to get too sour and too zingy. So too much acidic value to it, to me. So we go 3 days like this. Then what we do is we take the tea, take the SCOBY out, or actually ladle out. Do not ever put metal inside of the finished product of tea. Try not to have it touch metal, okay? So we used a metal spoon to stir it. Typically I would use a wooden spoon to stir it. You don't want to have metal containers or anything like that. It'll make it tinty. It'll ruin the batch. So basically then what you want to do is once it's done, you're going to put it in, go find some growlers from your local brewery or some fancy bottles from your local convenience store, and you can fill these up. What I do then is fill them up. I make different flavors. So what I'll do is Perhaps like this one here is a clementine ginger. So I took chunks of ginger root, chunk it up, stick it all in the bottle, maybe as much as you want really. You can make it as potent as you want, but you know, a good chunk of ginger and chunk it up and put it in there. And then I took like 2, 3 clementines and peeled them all and stuck the clementines down in through here. Then I put my tea in and you cover it. You have to have it covered. And then you're going to put it on your counter and you're going to let it ferment another 2 to 3 days. And be careful when you open it, because when you open it after those 2 or 3 days, say, whoa, it scares me that there's going to, you know, there's fizz in there. That's how you carbonate it. You don't have to carbonate it if you don't want, but that's where you get the carbonation for your kombucha. This particular one is my household recipe that I love, and what I do is I put about a cup, in a growler like this, I'll put about a cup or so, or more, of raspberries. Or I do a raspberry, blueberry, blackberry mix. And then I get these at the little Indian grocery store, not so far away. These are whole rose hips. So there they are, whole rose hips. And I will put a half a dozen to, 10 of these in there. And oh my goodness, you end up with raspberries and roses is what I call it. And the taste is absolutely phenomenal. So this is the household favorite. This one doesn't go as fast, but if you like to have the ginger, it's so good for your digestive system, and the citrus, of course, has a nice pleasing flavor. But you can get creative with kombucha. Once you get your basic recipes down, you can get quite creative. And I've heard of people doing coffee kombucha. There's all kinds of different things you can do, and there's all kinds of flavors. You can add, some people add fruit juices to the kombucha. I just do the whole fruit because I've always got that in my kitchen. I just stuff it in there and let it soak and sit for the 2 to 3 days, and then you put it in the fridge. Now this particular one's probably been in the fridge for, oh gosh, I would say maybe 2 weeks, because we kind of ended up with a stockpile of kombucha, so I held off in making some. So that we could finish this up, and then we'll start on the next batch. So, but basically, once it's in the fridge, it slows the fermentation rate down. So, I mean, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It's got a nice sweet taste. It's got the typical kombucha taste, but it's mild. It's a very mild. And I'm telling you, if you can align your brain and gut and get your gut going with some of these simple recipes, like here we've got another recipe with great probiotics in it. You can alleviate a lot of things in your house, including, the common cold, flus. We have not, knock on wood, we have not had the flu bug go through our house in quite a few years. Sure, we get the sniffles and things like that, but it generally doesn't last long. In part thing, it's because of our diet and because we consume things like this on a daily basis. So you can really ramp up your health by making a few minor changes. And if you like to do stuff like this, if you think this is fun and it's a good little project, and your kids will like it, they'll drink it if they make it. I find when we do our juicing and our smoothies, if I let the kids come in and I let them decide what they're going to put into those types of things, they end up liking them. They'll actually, I watch them juice carrots and celery and all these things, and greens. I've seen them even juice potatoes and throw those in our juice, and they'll drink them like mad. So same thing with kombucha. Sometimes it could be an acquired taste for some people, especially with our children. Our children, our oldest, he's liked it all the time. Our middle fella, who is going to be 9 this year, he didn't like it until I made the raspberries and roses. And some friends of theirs were over, and they were going to have a kombucha party. And so we got the shot glasses out, and they did shots of kombucha, and they got these bottles and brought them down. They were watching movies. And so the little guy, the middle guy, he decided to, he said, I'm going to try that. And now in his head, he loves it. It might have been just that everybody else was doing it, so he thought, I'm going to try it again. And he likes it. He figured out that he likes it. So now we're blowing through the kombucha. But anyway, that's good. It's good for you. And these are all, like I said, little recipes that will help you. And you know, if you have questions about any of this stuff, please comment below. Send me a message on Facebook. You know, feel free anytime to ask for recipes, that type of thing. I'll try my best to get them to you, answer your questions, because really a lot of this stuff isn't as scary as we think. And there's a lot of great information and websites on making, in particular, kombucha. And so when you're dealing with fermented foods, you know, we've done sauerkraut now in the video series. Now we're doing kombucha. So, you know, when you're dealing with fermented foods, a lot of people don't really understand, and it can be a little intimidating. But believe me, there are thousands and thousands of people doing it, and new people coming every day to do it, and they're imbibing some good health into them. I'm a firm believer that also when you cook or when you make things, if you imbibe good energy into these products, they taste even better. I mean, that's an age-old practice. That goes back to the depths of India, you know, where, you know, you imbibe into things the practice of giving thanks and recognizing beauty. And so when you're in your kitchen, try to always have a good attitude as well. That's really important. People will sometimes ask me, Brian, what is in your food? And I'll say, just love. And, you know, I mean, it's love. It's the love of being in the kitchen. It's kind of why Grandma always had the best dinners, is because she would sit all day on a Sunday, get up in the morning and start making the food, and she put her heart into it. So when everybody came over, they weren't eating just the food that Grandma made, they were eating love that she put into it. And so it tastes different, you know, it does change everything. And so when I make my meals and my kombucha, and even when I drink water, you know, it's really important to put love into it. Put love into serving your family, into serving your children, into serving your friends. I guarantee you, you'll make changes in your life that are absolutely phenomenal. So until next time, I'm Brian with the Live Food Jive, manifesting the real you deep down inside. We are on a mission. This is like a raw food revival, and I'm here for the duration. And we're gonna get you guys and get ourselves feeling and being the best people we could possibly be. We'll see you next time. Take care.